Okay, good evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the Freeport Withdrawal Committee on Thursday, March 13th. So at 6:35, small delay due to technical shenanigans, but I think we're up and running and recording now, so hopefully this is okay. And I'll just ask everybody to speak up as best you can so that we can have the microphone hear what's going on. These are our minutes. Here's the agenda.
Here.
So first order of business is the attendance. Currently in the room, Dennis King, Kate Werner, and myself, Peter Murray. Rich DeGrandprix is expected. I presume he didn't say that he wouldn't be coming, right. So we expect that he's coming. And the first order to waive the reading of the minutes and accept them as written for the minutes of the meeting of March 6, 2014. Can I have a motion, please, to waive the reading and to accept them as written?
I move that we waive the reading of the minutes and accept them as presented.
Second.
All right, did everybody review those? Seem okay? All right, all in favor?
All right.
None opposed? It passes. Okay. Second matter is public comment. That's you, Beth.
I am public.
Do you have any comments?
My question is what are you calling it? The visioning for the high school. Is that part of the plan? Is that to be part of the plan?
That's,
or is that's something separate?
So, hey, Rich, thanks for coming.
Healthier snacks.
Well, all right. Cookies instead of candy.
I brought the candy too.
All right. All right, we're live here. We're on the record.
Okay.
And Beth has asked if the forum that we're talking about putting together is going to be part of the plan or not. And I think the forum that we're putting together is really, I think everybody can comment on it, is really about us gathering information, because we're just four people sitting around the table, and we want to understand about how the community thinks about and feels about what a high school, a standalone high school would look like, and so that we can negotiate the best possible plan given input, as much input as we can. It won't be perfect because it'll be whoever is in the room, but it'll be something more than the four of us who are sitting around the table, and there'll be some dialogue, opportunity to talk with folks who have experience in school administration and leadership, and that's really the idea. Is really is a data gathering and an opportunity for public to come out and talk about what they would like to make sure that we don't negotiate away or negotiate for or whatever.
Yeah, my experience with you're going to do a charrette sort of thing.
Yeah, kind of a charrette. I don't know the definition of a charrette. It's a fancy French word, so I don't know much about it. But I will say, small. Yeah, the idea is you break up. You have dots and you vote for things.
Yeah, it's a great thing to do. You get priority. Yeah, it's a nice way.
Yeah, and they actually work well as long as you get yourself to a set of questions that'll get you to the answers you're trying to get to. I mean, that's we see that happen from time. Of a charrette, and you have a bunch of answers, and people will take the information you get, and they'll compile them, and they come back with 50% of the people said this, but 50% also said that.
Right.
So it really is
in which case, we know that it's divided, right? It'll be what it is.
Yeah, and I think for me, I think that the short answer for me is I see, I travel around in a bunch of different groups, and I hear substantially different things from different groups of people. So we're hoping to get as many people in, hear from folks who have some background, and also be able to participate in the discussion going forward, so that we're, as Pete says, we're trying to do what as many people in Freeport who are willing to communicate are interested. Because at the end of the day, they're going to decide whether we do it or not.
Right. So. Yeah, it was just I don't know, it seemed weird timing to me, because I would have thought you would have done the withdrawal plan first, because saying your 11 points. And so you have to do your 11 points, you have to do it. And then I figured it would be something after that.
After that, so one of the things we don't want to have happen with the visioning, this exercise, whatever you want to call it, the forum, is we don't want it to be a debate about withdrawal. We're not ready to talk about withdrawal. What we're talking about is, if we do withdraw, what are the things the community think are important about the high school, so that when we're talking about issues, particularly issues around how many kids do we offer to tuition, how many kids do we commit to tuition from our other towns in a withdrawn Freeport scenario, what do we want that to look like? Do we want to be shooting for the 550 kid high school, or do we want to be shooting for the 375 kid high school, or and what are the pros and cons of that? And
what are the priority areas of questions people have? It's really, the priorities of issues.
Right.
It's a nice way to do it.
It's funny, I've heard, one issue alone is sports. And I've heard from people on opposite sides or on the same side of opposite issues. They talk about the size of the school and where you are in sports. And then others saying, well, before we were in Class C, we were kind of the right size or the same size schools as a lot of the other folks in Class C. Now that we moved to Class B, even though we may have the same number of kids, these folks have been in Class B for many, many years. And so the teams are a lot tougher than they would be if we'd been a Class B school for 25 years. So, it's interesting to say, and how big the school should be for them is a matter of thinking their way through it. So that's one of the things that we did want to talk about in this is the sports and what effect that has, so we can hear from people what they're really thinking. So that's why we're hoping to get as many folks there as possible.
Anything else?
Yeah. Fine.
All right.
We were reminded last week it wasn't just about sports either. It was about other.
Yeah, it's
competitive
not just sports. It's arts. It's all kinds of things.
Yeah.
I mean, so the school size really has a lot to do with where you find yourself being placed.
Yeah, and your school size, divisions, it's not always the size, it depends on their schools.
Other variables as well. Right. All right. Unless you have anything further, we'll move into our working session. So the first thing is the forum that we're talking about putting together, and I've been in touch with Tom Edwards to talk a little bit about how we might approach this. Richie, you have a couple of names of possible facilitators.
Yes, I do. I have spoken with either one yet.
Okay.
Sue Ann Williams Lindgren and Lisa Andres. Sue Ann, she actually did a very good job for us in South Freeport once she understood what we were trying to get at. And Lisa Andresen does a very good job also, and she's elected in town. So, yep.
Sue Ann's my neighbor.
Yep.
Oh, right.
Yep. So you know what I'm saying. I mean, she left a while ago. I haven't seen her real recently. She did buy a new car, so that's probably why I haven't seen her.
So one thought I've had is I've been kind of taking point on trying to put this together and plan it, and I've got a couple of feelers out, a couple of people, but it's really been slower progress than I would like to see on getting this put together in the time frame that we have. So I wanted to table the idea tonight of table, not the American sense, put on the table the idea of doing of nominating a subcommittee or appointing a couple of other people to kind of plan and execute this kind of forum with our oversight, so that we can get some more horsepower on the table. We're putting in a lot of time. I'm putting in a lot of time, and we're all running around like chickens. So, how do people feel about that idea?
I don't have any problem at all with us, pulling some folks in that have some experience and are willing to help us with things, because this is too important to get wrong.
Right.
Okay. Would we put a notice on our webpage that would
yeah, we could
encourage
maybe
people
we could ask for volunteers.
That's a great idea.
Okay.
Folks are interested in helping us do this.
So, and anybody who's listening out there, if you're interested, just write to fwc@freeportmaine.com, and we would love to hear from you. And I think basically we're looking for a non-political event that's about community dialogue and helping us answer, a few questions, and having it be an educational night. Out how to get some experienced school administration leadership folks in from other districts to give us some perspective on school size and programming and so forth. So So folks that are interested in that, just write us an email and tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll put it on the website, and we'll see what comes of that, and we can also beat the bushes among folks that we know and see if folks step forward.
Yeah, I learned a long time ago, if you have a really strong opinion or you really want to get something done, you have to be careful speaking out loud because you get appointed to a committee.
Right. Exactly. All right, so that would be helpful, and I think our revised kind of target time frame is to get something in the early April time frame, for a couple of reasons. One is because I think we're running a little slow on getting started on planning it, and two is because Tom Edwards will be back in town, and he's at least a local education guru, one of our local education gurus. So
we're shooting to do it on a weeknight.
I would think a weeknight, yeah.
I mean, I've been to ones on weeknights. We had a very successful one during the comprehensive plan on a Saturday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and that's something we can ask around. I mean, maybe get people to give us some feedback.
Sure.
Whether it's, you know, and as once we get into bad weather and people, you know, have
We
lots
begin
of
to
other
lose
things
them,
to do,
yeah.
start to lose them because they have a
Start
lot
to
of work
lose
to
them,
do.
yeah. So we gotta keep that deadline tight, right? March should be better.
Okay.
All right, so we'll do that and take that as action steps. In the meantime, I'll keep trying to nudge it along as best I can, but my time is limited for that. So, anything else on that? All right, we can move on to outreach to nearby schools and districts. I don't know if you had a chance to read your email this afternoon, but I had a great conversation with Rich Ellis from the Brunswick School Board, and he was put in contact to us through a mutual friend, and we just had an informal discussion, nothing formal, but just to say, hey, you know, what have you guys thought about in terms of ways that the Brunswick district could cooperate with neighboring districts, the ways that you know, we might work together, and they have current initiatives in place for wrestling. They do wrestling with the SAD that's next door to them, and we do hockey with Yarmouth, right? So that was a common theme. He brought up the idea of doing specialized classes. So if we have an AP oceanography or something obscure that we may have one or two people interested in, they may have one or two people interested in. Together, we put together enough critical mass and share that kind of class. So he was bullish about it. He's going to talk about it with his board at his next board meeting and get some sentiment on that. And then we'll see what next steps are. We're not obviously authorized to discuss anything with anybody, but to just kind of that we have some natural resources in our neighbors that can help us put together.
And we're currently transporting kids to the Region 10 anyway.
Right.
So we're actually we have some transportation going on.
We-
so they may
and-
be waited.
We discussed that is in effect a cooperative effort
It is,
between
yes.
our school district and several others. So
It's a good program, too.
we're already doing that. So
My concern is that they don't have the ability to get the higher levels of math and sciences there, and a lot of the careers that you're training for really need that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's true.
It's true these days,
Especially
especially.
on the machine work.
Whether it's automotive or
Yeah.
even some of the science, some of the chemistry that you need for this, building construction is another one. I mean, there's a lot of that. You need some substantially higher levels of math.
Yeah.
And also, technology skills.
Everything's computerized.
Yeah,
Everything is, in your car, there's more computers than in most people's houses, right, these days? Much to your chagrin.
The record, I think, is a car that has 120 modules. Wow. Yep, I just don't know why.
Every one of those modules is more powerful than the computer I used to program on as a kid, right? I mean, that's the thing. Right?
The watches you have today have more computing power than we sent to the moon.
That's the movie, exactly. So,
It really is fascinating where we're going with that.
the other contact we've had was with David Ray from Yarmouth. I can't remember if we had that before our last meeting or not.
Yeah, you
but
told us about that.
he's planning to bring it up with gather sentiment on cooperation and what next steps might be. I think his board meeting is tonight, actually.
You said
so
they've just seated a new, just
new
hired
superintendent.
new
Yeah.
superintendent. So.
So they.
Same with Cumberland, I guess. Cumberland's got a new guy from the same area.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, yeah. So, so anyway, that's the progress there. We also have reached out to Baxter at this point and are planning to meet, hopefully next week, schedule a meeting. Kate and I are looking at meeting with, we'll let you know if there's a
Yeah,
meeting.
if there's any way I
yeah,
can make breakaways.
It's like Thursday afternoon, possibly.
shoot for.
Next Thursday?
So that's the update on that front. And I think basically at this point, we'll hear back sentiment from these boards, and then we might try to schedule the meetings that we've been talking about, where it might just be kind of a brainstorming session, half an hour, 45 minutes, not wasting a lot of people's time, but just to kind of say, touch base and see what kind of things might work, so we can see how they might, what that dimensionality looks like.
Okay.
Anything else on that front?
No, I've got a couple of updates on some of the other things that I was working on, so.
The town data collection?
Yeah, some
Okay,
of
so that's
some of
the
it's
next.
town, some of it's other, it was town related.
All right, we'll do that on the next bullet then, which is the data request from RC5 in town. We can start with town stuff.
Yeah, the deeds that we were prepared by the town of Freeport. Copies of those, so that's not a problem. I don't have them with me, but again, that's not a big deal. There was since we started this, the relationship with the bus garage is something that's a little longer here. Jim is no longer here. The public works director. So I mean, things that nobody's real sure how that was set up before. So I'm going to crawl through that, and we'll have a better understanding of that. The other thing, I've spoken with Peter already. We're going to have a conversation and talk about what charter changes, might need to be made, whether we make them ahead of time. Much like we have a water district here in Freeport, but they have no assets or anything else. They simply monitor main water. So we could create a Freeport school district. So that we could be prepared to have a 7-member board rather than the state's 3-member board if this goes forward. So it's a big deal, but we're doing a little bit more research on that, and I'll have more information next time.
Okay, all right. What the process would look like?
Yeah, and the process is pretty similar for a charter amendment. Largely we kind of put back in what we took out. I mean, there's some of the language because there's some changes in statute now, the way the budget works. We have our current one, and we have the one that we used to use, and the statutes that go with the law now. So it's no big deal.
What is the what is the difference other than the 3 board members in the state?
Well, the state has a default.
Oh,
In other words, if you're successful going forward, in November, and you have to put a school board together to come up with a budget. You got to hold between now and June 30. Whereas if you're ready to go, you can put together a 7-member board. You'll end up with more experience. I'm sure there's a lot of folks who are already serving or have served would want to get in on that.
Is it only is the only difference between the state default configuration and the old Freeport one, the membership on the board, the 7 members?
No, there's probably some other issues also. I have it. I was going to check with Dan. He'll be by later. See if there's any other things that jump out at him as being, if you will, the default. We did this before. We know how to do it. So it would make sense to be prepared to do that. Going forward. And if the town or the community decides they don't want to do this, well, there's no heartburn.
Right.
We simply have a shell that we don't have to fill.
Right. Yeah, that all makes sense. And I think it would be good to put some thought into reviewing that structure, whatever the structure is that the charter defines, and
well, that's why I say
understand what will do it and what are current best practices and so forth. So we can do that with Dan or whatever.
We did meet with the RSU and we did get copies of the deed, so we do have. If you haven't gotten them already, I have them.
You have them.
Got it in the big binder here?
They're in there.
Getting thicker up.
If you have them,
and then also information on buses, vehicles, debt. There's information online that I pulled off.
Typically, the buses we have purchased
Okay.
So, I believe we own them all unless you have some leases that are left over.
But the superintendent said she would get that information
Okay.
for, as far as the BOMA and all of that, all of there is some information online
Mhm.
that I pulled down, but there's more that she's gonna supply.
Okay.
Sorry to jump ahead a little bit, I just want to make sure we didn't duplicate work.
Okay, that's good to know.
Could she indicate when we might see the next batch of stuff, or what that might be? Or?
No, that's something that I wanted to talk about tonight, following up, especially on the exhibit items, whatever needs to be produced for the agreement, particularly focused on those issues. So I put together a list of items that I think need to be part of the agreement, so we can focus on that maybe.
Focus on prioritizing
And
those, yeah.
but Jenny's been fantastic. We met, Pete and I met with superintendent and finance director last week, and they were very forthcoming with the information. So it just is a lot. There's a lot there. So there's going to be some time to get it together. And some things like the enrollments won't be finalized until the end of April. So that's sort of given us is the end of April, but they said whatever can be produced before that will be produced.
And we have the October enrollments as of October, so
Exactly,
we can work with those until they give us the updated ones.
And I know the budget is a lot of work, so they're focused on that right now. But my thought process was to follow up with particular items.
We locked out?
Pull, they didn't push.
Yeah. Read the sign.
That's the
There he is. Sounds like him. Front door locked? It was unusual. Was the front door locked?
Yeah, he said he's.
Yeah.
Locked out, huh?
It just locked
Oh,
it.
goodness.
They saw me coming.
Yeah,
Yeah, they saw you doing it, they went into lockdown, right?
That's actually good practice.
All right,
You got a
so,
billable hour, you've been out there 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, they told them to get here at 7, so. All right, so, so we need to, so what's on your list there for, stuff to be? And that the, RSU has given us a first tranche of information, and some stuff they didn't give us yet, and we're trying to help prioritize what we really need to get access to sooner, so that they can dial it in right on budget and doing a bunch of other work, so we don't want to overwhelm. So, we're trying to get surgical about it and get the stuff we need first. Yeah.
So we're looking at copy leases, maintenance agreements. They said they would provide those. Contract lease purchase agreements, including buses and vehicles. So that's the BOMAR contracts that they said they would provide. List of employees and positions to be assigned to Freeport schools. I think a lot of that information is online. So what I thought I would do is just start putting together a list to them and see if there's more that I'm missing. That because it's also not just employees but also positions, which may not be all filled right now.
Let me clarify understand what you're saying. She's to be currently assigned to Freeport School.
Well, that would be assigned to Freeport schools if we withdraw. So we're talking about employees that are just Freeport employees that would be Freeport employees after the withdrawal, as opposed to Durham employees or panel of school building employees, and then there's of course the category of shared employees that we also have to figure out.
Well, I think that would be the ones we need to wade through, unless several buildings outside of one town share positions too. So
Exactly right. So, but the withdrawal agreement would have a list of employees and positions for Freeport. So that's why I'm following up on that item for an exhibit.
this sounds like I don't want to say, well, we're going to keep this one and we don't want that one. Keep this one. What I want to know is how they're currently assigned.
Yes.
And which ones currently performing duties in several buildings, and then we'll figure out from there what to do. That's really our job.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah. So so just taking care of all of that. with the data. So that's just something to follow up with. They were gonna provide the shared employees. And so just trying to facilitate that by at least just having a list of positions maybe, instead of employee
List of
names.
positions and where they're currently assigned, and
Right.
then we can
Yep.
carve it up.
Yeah, we can figure out from there.
Assigned by school building or something like that.
Because it was their request that, folks who are currently working in Durham, stay in Durham, or teaching, that was Freeport or Pownell.
That was essentially the,
That was their request.
there's a suggestion that came out of the first negotiation.
I think it's the best way to
It
do it.
makes sense, yeah.
Is that the way it's normally done by position, or do you also have names listed? How is that normally done?
You know, often there are employee names listed on it, just for purposes of clarity as
Right.
to who's gonna be, become an employee.
So they have some certainty around.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
Right,
exactly.
Mhm.
I think it provides some comfort level to people to be clear where
right.
they're going.
Who they need to report to, I suppose, right?
But Rich's point is, we don't want to ask them to divide it up. We want them just to document who's working where.
Right,
And
Yeah.
one important consideration is to be respectful of people, right? So I'd rather that we're talking about positions. We may write down in the end, names, but we don't want to be in negotiation saying Fred goes here and Bob goes over there, and that's
Oh, no,
not
we wanna
cool
keep
for-
Bob.
Right, right, exactly. No, I want Bob. No, I don't want Bob. Oh, you can have him. We don't want to be in that kind of situation.
Yeah, I don't want to be there.
So, talking about positions and what we need for, to make the district work.
And that'll give us how it's functioning currently.
Mhm.
And we can work from there.
right, okay. And then along those lines, there are continuing contract teachers and probationary teachers, so we need to know what the status is, and obviously that's a little bit more tricky as far as not reveal too much information about anyone, but we certainly need to know where their level of probation is, and so therefore we can accommodate that.
Just a quick tutorial for me. When the teacher is hired, they have, is it a probational period?
Probational
Is it 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, or is it based on position?
Currently, teachers have a 3-year probationary period.
It's a 3-year probationary period, during which time they aren't guaranteed a continued contract, and they could be terminated, after which time they get the continued contract across.
Yeah, that's fine. I just need to understand.
So we need to request that.
So, that's public information. That's not something that's private.
It's considered HR information, so probably public, but it's not considered, it's not something you put it up on the website.
Oh, no. But if your policy is 3 years and a teacher's been with you for 2 years, then they still have 1 year left. of probation.
That's right, yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not saying it should be by name.
right.
I just need to understand.
Mhm.
Thanks.
We need to request that, 'cause that was part of the original request, I think. And then, the buses, how that's gonna be broken down. So,
Do we have
That's an exhibit.
any details about the buses?
we do, yeah, there is information online that I pulled down about basically the 20-year capital plan that has a list of vehicles and, lots of information about when they were planning on replacing them, what the
Good.
so you need to have them basically.
Well, no, this is the same one that Dennis provides us with every year. We go
Oh
through
yes,
this.
yes.
Does it have
They're
VIN?
fantastic.
Does it have VIN numbers and stuff? So no.
These are new purchases, not current ones. This is a capital plan going forward. And in many ways, the decision which vehicle you're going to change for buses gets made in the year that it gets inspected, because the state police has to inspect each vehicle.
Right.
So you sometimes make decisions on which bus stays and which bus goes. based
So what
on-
we want is not that necessarily, but we want an inventory of the current buses by, with VIN numbers and, or at least bus numbers, so that, and age and all this, we ask for it pretty explicitly, so.
Yeah, and they
That
did say
seems to be one-
they would provide that,
Okay.
that information. They were, provide, any guarantee about how long the bus might live.
No, just
Or the
bus
current
and
value, but
bus
the
age
rest of.
and any
yeah,
major
exactly.
problems,
Right.
right?
You referenced Beaumont. contract? What is that?
Durham is still using Beaumont
It's a
Transportation.
vendor?
It's a vendor for bus service.
Gotcha, okay, so it's split that way.
They'll either lease you buses or provide you with the bus service, so you just
Gotcha.
drive to
At
a
one
name.
point,
bus
Powell
gets
did that for some and owned some.
Gotcha. And so there's not one.
Yeah,
methodology.
it's a couple of, exactly.
There's several different ways you can do it.
Was it 2 years ago, Beth, that we had this discussion of whether we're gonna buy buses or lease them, or what we were gonna do? It was quite a discussion at the board
It
level.
was longer than that.
Three
It
or
was
4 years.
3 or 4 years. Just a question.
Yeah, and it came, what it came down to was, which one was more
Financially
effective.
was,
I remember that discussion.
And
Anything
then
else,
the
Susan?
other important item, the last important item, exhibit item was, revenue funds, scholarship funds, that type of thing, we need to see listed out.
So
So
these
that's
are,
gonna be provided, they said, they did say some of it, the information was available in the audit, but there was some that wasn't, so. I just have to put that together.
we just to enumerate all of these things, right?
Right.
And we need to be, I think, pretty crisp about what we're looking for and tie it to why we need to look for it. So for instance, the scholarship fund is pretty easy to say because some of these scholarship funds should go to Durham, some of them should go with Freeport, and we'll have to discuss that because they're all assets of the RSU at this point, and we'll want to, we'll need to see an exhaustive list of that. So having us drilling around in audits is solution for that.
Right, exactly, yeah.
We need an enumeration of all these things. So I want to be very, very explicit about the things that we really, really need.
Right. And so, of the list, I have a bunch of notes, but basically, what I'd like to do is focus on, for the items that we absolutely have to have for the agreement, and then,
So I think as we
what we
go,
can wait on a little bit.
as we go through the draft tonight, we can take off things on your list and make sure we got them in good shape.
And again, these are, as we work through this agreement, will be, it'll be a TA, so we'll, there'll always be, if there's a piece of information we don't get for a month, well, we can make those adjustments as we need to.
A week. We don't have a month in this.
Okay.
Remember, April 20th. April 20th.
Okay.
On that front, I did get a communication from Michelle. She was going to try and get us a questionnaire tonight, but I didn't see it. Did you see it in your email? So she reached out to me after the board meeting last night and said that two things. One is that their lawyer, Dan, the Drummond Woodson guy, basically said they couldn't read our draft until before Wednesday night. So they're not going to be prepared to TA on Wednesday night, and they're going to meet subsequently to talk with their lawyer. So the lead guy, Dick Spencer's off in Nepal or something like that right now, so he's not available. So they've got somebody else in there, and maybe he's overwhelmed or whatever. But so we may not get as much done on Wednesday as we'd hope, but maybe we can get some conceptual discussion going and start addressing some of the enrollment commitment type questions at a high level. So thing two is that they have a questionnaire that they have been sending to any district that is interested in tuitioning some of their kids. So they wanted to send that to us as well, and I said send it along, look at it, and I asked her to send it today so we could have it for tonight. And she said she was about to push send, but I didn't get it yet, so maybe there's some hang up there.
You sent it to all of us or just to you?
She was going to send it to me as you see the rest, but we would all have gotten it. So I can check right. I got it. I don't think I had it last night. No, I definitely didn't have it last I checked.
Yeah, I was, I shut mine down at about 5:30. I didn't see it yet.
Okay. Well, I can't bring it up right now, but I'll bring it up when we stop the projection.
Okay.
So, and then we can decide how we respond to that. But those are two communications I had from her after the board meeting. The other piece of information that I asked Shannon about was the capacity at the Durham Middle School, and she indicated that they believe that it's essentially not quite at capacity, but it doesn't have the capacity to take all of the Powell middle school kids. So that's from their perspective, a capacity issue. And that may help us understand if we'll be able to offer them grandfathering or not. So.
And I think that largely, Durham did a good job of planning that school, and they planned their capacity for a K-8 for their community. All that work was done before, the RSU came along. Before we even started the process of the RSU. I mean, we were one of some of the last meetings that took place in the old gym.
All right, so anything more on the request from the RSU? And I think next step is we move into executive session and begin to review that draft. Anything else people want to do on the record here?
I'm pretty much where we're at. I'm just going to continue. Abby is on vacation this week. I did speak with her at one point. She's really good at returning calls, but she was in the office, so we're going to get together next week and continue working on some of the stuff I need.
Well, I guess one other update we found out vis-a-vis trying to figure out or get access to some of the pre-RSU report data is that they declined our request to our offer essentially to go and look through whatever archival boxes may exist, and instead asked that we ask for specific items out of there. So we, Kate and I, came up with a list of specific items that we asked them for that included detailed budgets for the 3 years prior to consolidation and high school course handbooks. I think items we asked for, and they said they would go and look for those items. Also contracts and arrangements with Pownell and anybody else that we had arrangements with as a district.
Dan, I don't interrupt you in the middle of writing here, but there's certainly a responsibility to archive information. When schools consolidated, who took on that responsibility? Did the RSU take on responsibility for the respective schools as the districts, as the individual town districts disappeared?
Yeah, I mean, at least in theory, it should have been the RSU would have been the successor to the
They would have
previous
been
school years.
responsible for education archiving.
Yeah.
I think they've got it. I think they store it away somewhere in some unindexed, box somewhere, and so it's a pain in the butt to get
I just
to
had
it.
the year written on it.
So that's why we offered trying to take some weight off of them, that you just point us at the boxes and we'll go leaf through them, and they're like, no, blah, 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 and so forth. So we said, okay, fine, then, if you look for those items, we would like to see them. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think we should probably ping them next week on all this stuff with a concise list of our prioritized items, and then see if we can't get them to turn some of that stuff around quick.
Abby seemed to know where our information was, so that's about things that we were going to go look for and see just how complete information it is.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion now to turn into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. None. And so now we'll move into executive session. We'll terminate the recording. Thanks very much.
I have to go shopping.